Welcome to the LA Insider, the podcast that takes you inside the neighborhoods of Los Angeles through the voices of the people shaping them. I'm your host, Jason Anderson, a real estate agent in LA and your guide to the stories behind the city. Each week I sit down with local entrepreneurs, community leaders, and business owners to uncover what makes their corner of LA special, from hidden gems to big ideas and neighborhood-changing insights. We'll also explore the path to success that brought each of my guests to where they are today, their challenges, wins, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Whether you're exploring where to live, grow a business, or just want to understand the real LA, this show is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast today of the LA Insider. I'm very happy to have our guest, Gina L. Osborne. She's a retired FBI assistant special agent in charge with over 30 years of experience in crisis management, cybersecurity, and leadership. Based in Orange County, she serves as a keynote speaker, podcast host, and leadership advisor. Through her podcast, Making Maverick Moves, and her speaking engagements, she empowers leaders and organizations to navigate challenges with resilience and authenticity. Welcome, Gina.
Thanks, Jason. I'm happy to be here.
So, Gina, really quick, what does L stand for?
Oh, Louise.
Louise, Gina Louise.
Yes.
I had to ask that since the L was very prominent in your name.
Yes. You know what's funny is in the FBI, you get an official bureau name. And so my official bureau name was Gina L. Osborne. I did that for 22 years and it's continuing on forever.
Oh, that's great. So, Gina, for anyone who's not familiar with your story yet, how would you introduce yourself today?
Gosh, so today I am a podcast host. I have Making Maverick Moves, as you can see here. And really, I like to empower people. I like to empower people to be the trailblazers that they want to be, and really what Making Maverick Moves is all about is maybe being scared coming up on something, but you do it anyway. When I have my guests come on, we talk about the Maverick moves that they've made. And really, it's inspiring because I think everybody wants to make some sort of Maverick move in their lifetime.
They sure do. Nowadays, you need a lot of courage to get ahead.
For sure.
And you've had an extraordinary career from FBI agent to entrepreneur and now leadership coach and podcaster.
Yes, and I was in the Army before that, back in the day, back during the end of the Cold War. I don't want to date myself too much, Jason, but I went into the Army in 1987.
Well, Gina, thank you for your service.
Oh, my pleasure.
And what would you say has been the biggest turning point in your journey?
Gosh, I think I've had a lot of different turning points. I think the biggest turning point that really has led me to where I am today is I was the chief safety and security officer for LA Metro. And during that time, I was responsible for about $200 million worth of law enforcement contracts. And I identified performance deficiencies in the law enforcement partners who are LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, and Long Beach PD. And I went to the Inspector General to tell her about these performance deficiencies, and I was fired not long after that. So really I had never been fired before in my entire life. It was definitely a shock, and it was very public because it was leaked to the LA Times. So that sort of started a little journey that I did not expect. But really, it's made me who I am, and it really taught me a lot about resilience. It taught me a lot about leadership, good leadership, and it taught me a lot about being in the flow in life. You really have to go with that flow because you can fight things and use all your energy to fight things. But I think when you just recognize the fact that, hey, whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. And that really led me to where I am right now.
Yeah, in a way you trust your path.
Exactly.
And you touched on your signature concept a little bit earlier about the Maverick. What does it mean to make, more specifically, a Maverick move?
It could be a little thing. I had one of my listeners reach out to me and tell me about how in the morning she's got 2 kids and a husband and a dog, and she's running around the house, and all she really wanted was a cup of coffee, a hot cup of coffee. And every time she'd pour herself a cup of coffee, this would happen or that would happen. But then she just decided, you know what, when this Spice Girls music is playing in the morning, nobody bothers mom and her coffee. Little things. And I think if you do little things like that, where you take space for yourself, yourself, then you can go on to do the bigger things.
That's a really great story.
Yeah.
So you coach women on how to lead like Mavericks. What does that look like today in the world of work and leadership and life?
I talk to a lot of women's groups about rising to the top in male dominated fields because for me, having was in the military back in the 80s when fewer than about 10% of the soldiers were women. When I got into the FBI in 1996, about 14% of the agents were women. So I know what it's like to be the only woman in the room, especially when I rose into the executive ranks. But really, I talk a lot about the simple things, not taking things personally. I think we get so wrapped up today and taking everything personally that it really takes a lot of the energy that we could be devoting to our bigger plan, and it just really zaps our energy and really isn't worthwhile. Setting boundaries and really stretching ourselves. It's so important. If you want to have that confidence, if you want to have that courage, it's like a muscle. You have to be working those muscles. So stepping outside of the box and really stretching ourselves, I'm a big believer in that because that's really how you find your breakthrough success.
So for a person who's never been a maverick in their life, is it something that they can cultivate and learn, or did they just have to be born with it?
I don't think you're born with it. I really don't. In fact, I had a woman on my podcast. Her name is Brenda Robinson. She was the first female African American Navy pilot in the history of our Navy, the US Navy. She was the first female American Airlines pilot. And I spoke with her. She could fly 7 different airplanes. She can land on aircraft carriers. And then at the end of the conversation, she talked about how she has no confidence. And it blew my mind because I said, and she's in the International Pioneer Hall of Fame. So I asked her, how could you do all of this in your lifetime and not have any confidence? And she said, because I pretended that I did. So really, it's that mind shift. I think everybody is destined for greatness in one way or the other. So really, again, it's about stepping outside of the box, stretching yourself. And that is how you're going to find breakthrough success each and every day when you just do a little bit more and a little bit more to the point where you can make that maverick move if that's what you want to do.
So in a way, did she create an avatar for herself?
Oh my gosh, she should, right? She's an amazing person. But really, I hear these stories a lot, and we can't let not having that confidence because if that is an issue, she told me that her father thought that she would grow out of it, and she never did. But if you just have to have that mind shift, it's okay, this is my weakness. I'm going to play on all of my strengths to get me to where I want to go. Because I'm not a patient person at all, but I'm a really good problem solver. I'm a really good communicator. So I focus on my strengths more than being slowed down by my weaknesses.
For somebody who's not patient, is there a way to communicate what you want without coming off a little too harsh?
Gosh, Jason, you're talking to the wrong person because I am not a patient person at all. I think it's just one of those things where it's all about what are you good at instead of focusing on the fact that you're not patient. If you can, and I speak with a lot of people and they're always looking for this great superpower. I'm going to turn into this, but our superpowers are what we were really born with. But unfortunately, we don't give ourselves credit because I could say I'm a really good problem solver, but then in my mind, I'd say everybody is a really good problem solver, but we all know that isn't true. So I think it's really important to focus on those superpowers that we do have, make ourselves greater at those because really that's how we're going to rise. And if you need to, I worked on the patience thing a lot. So yeah, you don't want to derail yourself by your weaknesses, but I would focus on the strengths because that's where you're going to find your breakthrough success.
And then your weaknesses, just farm those out to somebody who's better at it.
Exactly. See, that is the perfect thing. And when you're building teams, I talk a lot about team building, is when you're building a team, you don't want to surround yourselves with people who are just like you, with the same skills, with the same point of view. You want that diverse group of people, the people who are patient. For me, I wasn't a great marketing person. I have a phenomenal marketing chief who does everything that I can't do. So when you're building your teams, or even you're building your team in life, surround yourself with the people who complement you as opposed to who are exactly like you.
Yeah, that makes you a much more well-rounded person, I think.
I think so too.
So, how do you personally find the courage to speak up, especially when the path forward feels uncomfortable or risky?
I think you have to know that everything comes with consequences. And that was what happened with me and LA Metro. I was very focused on doing the right thing, getting Metro their own police department. I thought that was what absolutely needed to happen. So you really have to weigh the consequences. Is this a hill that you're willing to die on? And none of us go out to die on that hill. But when you are really set with your values, with what you believe in, and especially doing the right thing, that's when that courage will come to you. Because sometimes that hill, you pick that hill. And like the thing with me in Metro, that hill picked me. It's really interesting to watch for these signs in life that sort of guide you in a certain direction. Because, like I said, you can fight it all day long, but if that was the path that you were meant to be on, that's where you're going.
And what are some signs that someone is playing it too safe?
I probably discontent with them within themselves, I would think. If you're always feeling like I could do better, or I could, if only I could do this, or if only I could do that. If that's the way that you're feeling, maybe you are playing a little safe. When I was in the FBI and I was the assistant special agent charge of cyber, of computer and forensics, I had all of these young cyber supervisors. And when I look back on my career, allowing them to make mistakes, that allowing them to grow, seeing what they grew into, that was my legacy when I look back on my time in the bureau. But you have to be a secure leader to allow the people under you to make mistakes, because of course they can reflect on you. But again, where I was coming from, as long as taxpayers' money wasn't spent and as long as nobody was injured as a result of it, it's important to let people make mistakes, because that's how we grow.
And continuing on with the discussion about your time in the FBI, how do you think those experiences shape your belief that one person can create an impact today?
Oh my gosh. You really never know the impact that you have. And you may never know that, but I have had people come to me over the years and tell me about how something that I did or something that I said to help them made a huge impact on them. I really think that it's not about making the impact on others, but it's about the way that you live your life. I come from a long line of service. Both of my grandfathers were in the military. In fact, my mother's father died during World War II at sea. My father was a Marine, and I think my life has been of service. In fact, that's why I was so in love with working at LA Metro, is because there was such a great opportunity to make such a huge impact for the riders and the frontline employees to keep them safe coming to work. So I tell people who are coming up behind me, you have to really find your passion, because at the end of the day, that's what you should be chasing. It shouldn't be the money. It shouldn't be the fame. It shouldn't be anything else other than what really fills you and makes you feel whole.
Now, when you were in the FBI, you did work in counterterrorism and cybercrime. Those are pretty high pressure environments. How
Yes.
did you handle that? Do you have any tips for people working in high pressure environments?
Gosh, yeah. And I started working Asian organized crime in Little Saigon in Orange County, and I did that for 5 years before 9/11. I think I talk a lot when I'm out on the road doing my presentations and speaking. I talk a lot about leading through chaos, crisis, and change. And there are so many things that you can do in high pressure situations, but you really need to maintain that calm and create an environment as a leader where other people can do their jobs without that feeling of chaos. And so that's something that I speak a lot about in my keynote speeches, because it's so important. As the leader, you set the tone for everything. And if you are accepting, I always say you are what you tolerate. If you're tolerating a chaotic environment, a toxic environment in your workplace, then that's what you're going to have, and you're not going to find a way out of it. So you have to be really careful with that. You are what you tolerate.
It's pretty hard to set those standards sometimes.
Yeah, it is. But I think a lot of it is empowering your people. As a leader, you have to empower your people because that's where you're going to get the creativity out of them. That's where you're going to get the dedication, the loyalty, the trust. And so when I'm building my teams, that's the first thing I do. I give them everything they need in order to do their jobs. And then I let them do their jobs because when you're a micromanager, everybody has had a micromanaging boss before where you just feel that they suck the life completely out of you because you can't do things. They want you to do things the way they do it as opposed to the way that you do it. But when you look at that creativity that comes with allowing your people to figure things out and figure out how they can do things, maybe it's going to turn out better than the way you as a leader do it. So that's one thing that I find joy in, especially when I'm leading teams, is watching them grow and watching them figure it out.
You sound like a dream boss.
A dream boss. Oh my gosh. I don't know. You'll have to talk to my people about that, but I love people. So I think, and I have a degree in psychology. So I think I used it every single solitary day in my FBI career, definitely when I was at LA Metro. But yeah, it's important because you really want to get the best out of your people. And the only way to do that is to empower them to do their jobs.
Yes. Being in places like the FBI, military, law enforcement, those are very structured environments. How can a person have a maverick mindset in an environment where you're supposed to follow things so strictly?
That's where the creativity comes in. And I've always been a creative person. I've always enjoyed writing, always enjoyed art. But really, it's funny. In when I was in the military, I just told this story on my podcast. I've always been a glam girl. I was a Barbizon School of Modeling graduate, circa 1979, I think. And so when I got into the Army, I'm in advanced individual training. In basic training, they wouldn't let us put makeup on. But for whatever reason, I got addicted to this red lipstick when I was in advanced individual training, totally out of regulation. Whenever the first sergeant would see me, he'd always track me down and make me do push ups. But you just have to be true to yourself. That's what I tell people. And as a creative person, I was very fortunate to have supervisors who allowed me to be creative. So that's what it's so important. You have to show up who you are. There's so many times, and that's a lot of energy drain. It's an energy drain to show up as someone who you're not because that kind of takes over. And how do you have breakthrough success if you're pretending to be somebody that you're not? So, really embracing who you are to include your flaws. Now, I used to not be able to laugh at myself when I wasn't being patient, but now I think it's a little bit easier. We have to embrace our flaws because that's what makes us extraordinary.
Very true. Totally agree with that. What strengths would you say that you brought from your FBI career into what you're doing today?
I think just the storytelling aspect of it. I really love to tell stories. And I did a TED talk recently, and I was able to bring my law enforcement career into giving advice to how you can do things in business or do things in your personal life. I've learned so much, especially in the FBI. Rapport building is so important. They teach that at the academy. They have exercises that you have to go through in the academy to be able to build that rapport. And you do that by giving of yourself, by telling stories. So when I'm interviewing people on my podcast, I like to share my stories so that we can build that rapport so we can have some great lessons coming out to our listeners. So yeah, probably that really stuck with me is the rapport building because not only did I have to do that in the Army as a counterintelligence agent, but I did that throughout my career. And then getting into leadership, you definitely have to build that rapport. It's all about relationships.
So nowadays, you're coaching women and leaders to have their own power. What are
Yes.
some of the common fears that you find are holding them back?
I would say the biggest obstacles that we have is what's going on up here because the voices that are going on up here are the loudest voices that we hear day in and day out. They're not our mother, they're not our father, they're not our partner. It's what's going on in our head. And I had a wonderful guest on my podcast by the name of Kimberly Rouse. She talked about the gremlins and how to tame those gremlins. And really you have to just it's again it comes with the mindset is are you going to believe everything that's in your head? But what if it's not true. If you think about the assumptions, you may assume that someone doesn't like you, you may assume this or that, but unless there's evidence, then there's just these are just the gremlins in our mind. So it's really important that if you get stuck on something in your mind, look for the evidence. And 9 out of 10 times, it's probably not there. So we're making things up only to slow ourselves down. So if we can get that straight in our heads and really align ourselves with the voices in our head, then that's going to help us get to where we want to be a lot faster.
I see some of that psychology background that you have coming to play there.
Yes, for sure. But it happens to all of us. It still happens to me now. And I really have to stop myself and I have to think about it and I have to take inventory. And it's okay. So maybe this is just something I'm telling myself and it's not actually true. So that's really a good release when you learn how to do that.
Yeah, one saying that holds true to me is you never know what someone else is going through. They might respond to you in a certain way, and you just assume that it's focused at you and it's completely has nothing to do with you, but you just have no idea.
That is so true. And I learned that lesson when I became this cyber chief in Los Angeles because I had never really worked with cyber people, and cyber people are super introverted. They are chess players. They are brilliant. And it was a whole nother group than when I worked counterterrorism or when I worked Asian organized crime. For the first few weeks, I'm thinking, okay, they don't like me. What am I doing? But it really wasn't that. It was just, this is the nature of our relationship. And if you meet people where they are and really embrace them for the brilliance that they bring, then it's going to be a lot easier. Again, it's all about that taking things personally. There's a great book called The Four Agreements. I'm sure everyone's heard about it, but he talks about taking things personally as being like the most selfish thing that you can possibly do because you make it all about you. But when you step back and you don't make it about yourself, you don't take it personally, then it just becomes business as usual.
So easy to let our egos get in the way.
For sure, Jason. Yes.
So one thing that I have a problem with that I think you might know how to help people with is imposter syndrome. Well, how do people get over that?
But what is it? Are we okay? Are you on the couch, Jason? Are you going to
Uh,
tell me what that means to you?
so you get maybe you remember when you were beginning out in your career and you were the new guy and you didn't really know much. And then over time you become the expert, but you all back your mind think of yourself as the new guy and you never
Yeah.
cross over into recognizing your expertise.
Yeah. Yeah. I think look at the way that you interact with people in any given day. How many people are you helping? The people who are coming up behind you. What gifts are you giving as you are moving forward with that expertise that you have? And if you embrace that and remember those things, and again, it's those gremlins in your head. Are you going to believe it? Is there evidence? What's the evidence? Is the evidence that you don't know what you're doing? Okay, what is the evidence? And if you can't write down at least 3 or 4 things that show that you are an imposter, then case closed.
Now, do you find imposter syndrome is even more prevalent in the among women than men?
I don't buy into it the same way that I don't buy into a glass ceiling. Again, I think it's like what we learn and then we make that, is that true? So, what is the evidence that there is a glass ceiling? And I look at my life in particular. My mom was a single mom with 2 girls. She wound up going into real estate, Jason, and back in the 70s. And, what was interesting is here we have this all woman household. She was selling houses for $25,000-$30,000 a piece. In her first year, having no real estate experience whatsoever, she made the $1 million club. And back then, that was a huge deal. So I'm in basic training in the Army. Drill sergeant pulls me out of bed in the middle of the night to go paint the first sergeant's office. And I'm with this group of women, and one of them brought up the glass ceiling. And Jason, I had never heard of the glass. I was 20, probably 20, 21 years old, never heard about it in my life. Why? Because it wasn't something we talked about. And I think imposter syndrome or the glass ceiling or all of these things, it's just one more obstacle that we're putting in our own way. So if we can put those to bed and say, you know what, that does not apply to me, that's how we stay on track. That's how we focus our energy on that breakthrough success. And that's how we make it there.
That's great advice. So, if we have a listener in our audience who's in a leadership position, but they feel stuck or uncertain, what's one Maverick move they could take today?
Gosh, it's so personal. And like I said, figure out a way to step outside of your comfort zone today, right now. What can I do today to step outside of my comfort zone so we can, in doing something that I've always wanted to do, in accomplishing a certain task, whatever it is, in no longer tolerating something that I have been tolerating. So find something that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable and do it anyway. Find something that scares you a little bit, but do it anyway, and really map it out. When I was in the bureau, they always used to say, as you're climbing the ranks, where do you want to be 2 steps from now? So I always tell the folks that I'm coaching, okay, if this is what your issue is, where do you want to be 2 steps from now? Because that's where we're going. And that's going to help you decide where you want to go 1 step from now. So I say, flex those muscles, step out of your comfort zone. If something scares you, if something feels uncomfortable, do it anyway. And then do that again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that's how you're going to make it to making your own Maverick move.
That's great advice, and consistency really counts.
It really does with anything. When you look at weight loss, when you look at learning a language, it's all about the consistency.
So, what about that person who maybe has hit some setbacks? There's a lot of people today who may have had a layoff or something like that where they are feeling down. What can you teach them on how they can get back on the saddle?
I can just tell you what, happened with me being so publicly fired and landing on the front page of the LA Times twice and everybody knowing about it. And I spent my entire FBI career, other than my 18 months in Washington, D.C., in Los Angeles. So everybody knew about it. You have to decide. And again, I put in for jobs. I wasn't getting jobs because I was dubbed a whistleblower. And so really, you just have to sit and be quiet and think, okay, I thought I was going in this direction, but maybe I'm going to be going in this direction. And what is over here in this direction that I'm going to be more excited about, more passionate about, where I can help more people? And it's not about giving up, going in that direction. It just means that maybe the growth is going in a different direction. Really. So yeah, did I feel sorry for myself? Was I devastated? Absolutely. But again, I started getting excited. It's okay. So what is my message now? And that's how making Maverick moves. I'm not teaching people how to go out and be nonconformists. I'm teaching people to go out and follow their vision and fight for their vision for where they want to be in their lives. So you just have to, and again, I was on the couch for a while, but then one day you get up a little while, then you get up a little bit more. And again, it's about that consistency. You just have to work your way out. And believe me, I love where I am right now. I love the opportunity to talk to you and all of your listeners. You never know. You never know what gift is waiting for you. And sometimes the failure or the perception of failure is really just an opportunity to go to where you're really supposed to be.
I love that you mentioned laying on the couch for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Just give yourself a moment to just let it all sink in, take a deep breath, let it pass, and then prepare yourself to move on.
Oh, for sure. One thing that I learned at LA Metro is, because it was probably the most violence that I've ever seen in my entire 28-year law enforcement career. I never saw more violence than I did during the 2 years when I was in charge of safety and security for LA Metro. But what I learned is that every crisis comes with an opportunity. So if you believe that, in fact, I sat there after I got fired. I was walked past my staff. I was stuffed into an Uber, not even an UberX, an Uber, and I was sent home. And for 2 days, I sat there and I'm like, how could this have happened? What is my purpose? I went through all of that, but I was very quiet during that time and looking for that opportunity, and the opportunity came.
That's great advice. to just realize that there'll be another opportunity.
Always. You just have to believe.
So, if you could whisper one message to every woman leader in the world right now, what would you say?
Oh my gosh. I would say have fun. Just go out and be the biggest and boldest and just enjoy it. It goes by so fast. I remember early in my career, I was such a perfectionist. Before I would go out and do a search warrant, I would change my clothes like 10 times to make sure that I didn't look too feminine, I didn't look too masculine, I didn't da da da. Right? It's just that's all that energy. So if you just embrace who you are, and know that this is just appreciate and embrace who you are and know it gets a lot easier, and the voices become more quiet as you age and as you experience. So if you can just give yourself a break and enjoy, and when you make mistakes, just accept it and move on. So yeah, if we could just not be hard on ourselves, that would be the best advice I can give.
That's excellent advice because sometimes we just get a little too serious and forget what life's really all about.
Absolutely.
So, to get to know you a little better, Gina, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite book?
Oh gosh, my favorite book was by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, and it's called A Gift from the Sea.
Oh,
And she comes from the Lindbergh family. She goes to the sea, and every little shell, the place where she stays, she just is so in the present in that book. I just absolutely love it. So I would say that's my favorite book.
what was the first job you ever had?
At the Tustin Broaster Chicken, and I made chicken. Yes, it was a fried chicken place. I think I was 15 years old. Oh no, I think my dad had a junkyard, and my sister and I would get paid a penny a brick to stack bricks on pallets in Arizona during the summer. Yes, that was, and I don't remember how, I was probably like 9 or 10 years old for that one. But yeah, that was probably my first job. My
You,
dad wanted boys. I was Jeffrey James and my sister was Zane Lane, and he was
so
surprised when we both got here.
your parents instilled that good work ethic into you.
Oh, absolutely.
So, what would you say is the best habit that you have that's been positive in your life?
The best habit, always believing that I'm on the right path. And I don't even know. I think that probably came from my mom, because for someone to go from a housewife for 13 years into real estate and to sell $1 million in houses, and the way that she treated her people, she had worked a lot with veterans and elderly people. I really enjoyed watching that. So I think her sense of positivity, of believing that she could do it, that's something I think I inherited from her. And I get this warm feeling whenever I sit and I may be fretting about something, but if I stop and start listening to my gut, I get that warm feeling thinking, you know what, it's gonna turn out the way I want it to.
I love that. A positive outlook can just make such a big difference in every day.
Yes.
What would you say is your favorite quote or mantra? You answered that already, but
Oh gosh, my Albert Einstein,
okay.
and then I modify it. She who attempts the absurd can achieve the impossible.
Love that. That's great. And last, what is your favorite coffee order?
I don't drink coffee.
Oh, if you're at a coffee place, what do you end up ordering?
Water.
Water, not even tea?
Not even tea. I don't like tea either. Isn't that terrible? You know what? This is my dad's fault. When my sister and I were little kids, we asked him if we could drink coffee. And he said that you can have coffee if you drink it like a man. And to this day, I don't drink coffee and my sister drinks it black.
Jeez. So we do like to our talk with a little bit of a local spotlight, talking about different parts of the Southern California region. And so, Gina, what part of town are you in?
I'm in Orange County.
Orange?
I'm in Orange County, not far from the beach. I'm a water
Oh,
sign. I love the water. But yes, it's funny because I grew up in Tustin.
okay.
And I never wanted to live and die in Tustin. I wanted to be this international woman of intrigue, which is why I joined the army and went to Europe and did all those things. What's funny is I graduated from the FBI Academy, all I wanted to do was come home. And I was assigned to the Santa Ana office. And my first arrest was across the street from my high school.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I love the fact that there are roots here. And I think the older you get, the more you appreciate the roots that you have in your life, like the dry cleaner that I've been going to since I was a little girl, my dentist who I've been going to since I was a little girl, restaurants when I visit my mom that we go to, and they've been around for 50, 60 years. So yeah, so I like the roots that come with going back to your own hometown.
So going back to Tustin, do you have any favorite hidden gems or favorite restaurants to recommend?
Yes, absolutely. Roma d'Italia, family run business. I remember when we first moved to Tustin back in gosh, I'm really going to date myself, 71. We used to get pizza from Roma d'Italia. So yes, if you're in town, go to Old Town Tustin to Roma d'Italia. They're amazing.
So Old Town Tustin sounds like a cute little quaint old town area with like lots of shops and things.
Lots of shops, antique shops. They have lots of really great restaurants. And and I don't think they're cherry blossom trees, jacaranda trees, maybe the ones that have all the purple flowers.
Yeah.
And when those bloom, it's a really beautiful place to go down and drive through town.
What would you say the lifestyle is in Tustin? More laid back or family friendly?
Definitely family friendly, I think. Yeah, definitely family friendly. It's quiet, and I like quiet, but there's a really solid community. You have your fire department and police department who are really community oriented. Every year for the holidays, for Christmas, you always have Santa driven down the street in a patrol car. Yeah, so it's a really nice town.
Gina L. Osborne, thank you so much for being a guest today. Where can people find you?
Oh my gosh. So find me at Making Maverick Moves, a podcast. You can find it on all of the channels. We have video, so you can go to YouTube, all of your favorite podcast providers, Apple, Spotify. Go to my website, ginalosborn.com, if you're interested in looking at my speaking topics. I'd love to come out and visit with you and talk about leadership. And I'm everywhere on my social media, Gina L. Osborne.
And are you planning on doing another TED Talk?
That oh yes. I don't know. I just did it about a month and a half ago, and I think I need to wind down from that one. I will later, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it was a great experience.
Great. Making Maverick Moves with Gina L. Osborne. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to the LA Insider. I hope today's conversation gave you a deeper look into the people and neighborhoods that make Los Angeles so dynamic. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves LA just as much as you do. I'm Jason, and I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest and more stories from the heart of the city. Until then, stay curious, stay connected, and keep exploring LA.